I'm going to talk about autism, ADHD, and asthma and how the Feingold program can help. First of all, now I don't know if this is what a box of Jell-O looks like in Canada. Does this look familiar to anybody? Yeah? You have Jell-O in Canada, right? Okay. And this is cherry Jell-O. Does anybody know how many cherries are in cherry Jell-O? You all are really smart. You're right. Let's see what's in there. We have sugar, gelatin, adipic acid. Now, if I was making something, would I put acid in it? Does anybody go to the store and buy acid to put in their food? Especially adipic acid. It's not a usual ingredient in your home cooking. Dr. Shaw once explained to me that some children don't digest adipic acid, and when they don't, it causes seizures. Whether that explains why some children with seizures, when they go on the Feingold diet, get better, we don't really know, because there's no research on this, except for what Dr. Shaw himself did. Most of the time, adipic acid is hidden under a heading called artificial flavorings. But in Jell-O, it is actually admitted. Artificial flavor, which could be anything. Disodium phosphate, nice chemical. I believe it takes the calcium out of your bones. And sodium citrate, another acid. We need so many acids because when you have no fruit in there and you have artificial flavoring, to make it taste like fruit, you need to have some tartness. And so this does that. Fumaric acid, another acid. Red number 40 and blue number 1. Now, this is what they call colorings in the United States. Here, they would have some other names. Do you ever have colors and numbers on your products here as well? Maybe things that are imported from the United States. But we'll go through that with the current names as well. I want to also clarify one more thing. I'm not a scientist. I'm speaking as a mom, but I have been reading the science for about 25 years. That's why I went back to school, because I knew I needed to do this. So, we're going to talk about the synthetic dyes first, and what are they? They originally were made from coal tar, and they were called coal tar dyes. Today, they're made mostly from petroleum. Petroleum makes a lot of things, including plastics, flavorings, preservatives, a lot of medicines, pesticides, fragrances, and of course, gasoline or petrol. What do you call it here? Gas? Okay, makes that too. That stuff on the right side is not chocolate pudding. That's some crude oil. That's the basic ingredient of your colorings and many other products. Yellow number 5, also called tartrazine. It's widely used in foods and drugs, and allergists have been reporting that it causes some physical effects in patients, including asthma and hives. It's not written on here, but some people have suffered anaphylactic reactions, true allergies to tartrazine. It has been shown to trigger behavior problems in children. It has been known for a long time to cause asthma in aspirin-sensitive asthma. It's what they used to call a cross-sensitization. Yellow number 6, or sunset yellow, is another food dye that can bring about these other nice symptoms. And of course, it's worth it because you want your cupcakes and your cakes to have pretty colors, right? So we don't care if the children are going to have bronchoconstriction. And by the way, when you say bronchoconstriction, this is constricting your bronchial tubes. It may not cause asthma as directly. In other words, the child or the adult may eat something with food coloring and may not get an asthma attack, even if they're asthmatic. But what it does is it prepares them for the next allergen that comes along, so they will seem to be much more sensitive than they would have been if they weren't eating these things. That's a little bit subtle, but it works like that. Okay, both of these colorings, yellow 5 and 6, lower your level of zinc. I believe Dr. Shaw also was talking about zinc. Children with attention deficit and autism are often low in zinc. Ward in 1990 and 1997 in England did some studies. He is not a psychiatrist, he's a chemist, and he measured the zinc that was excreted in the saliva and in urine, and found that children with attention deficit disorder lost zinc very fast, becoming deficient and developing symptoms. I contacted him several years later and asked him, by the way, when are you going to do studies on green number 3 and red number 40, and to see if that works the same way on all of them. I said, it looks like you have actually found a marker for attention deficit. And he answered and he said, yes, I found a marker and nobody's interested in funding my research. So to this date, as far as I know, it's never been done. Well, let's see. Tartrazine does some more things. It inhibits dopamine sulfur-transferase. Sulfur-transferase is an enzyme. We're going to talk about other enzymes like that. That's an enzyme needed by the neurotransmitter dopamine. Dopamine is involved in attention and brain function, and probably is not a good idea to inhibit it. Red number 3 is called erythrocine. That one is a little bit different from the other colorings because it's actually made from iodine. And anyone who's ever had to have a thyroid scan knows that they were told not to have any red colorings. This is the one they were supposed to not eat. Now, it's partially banned. They banned the red number 3 lake, which is a version of it, but they didn't ban plain red number 3 because the company that makes it is very powerful and fought the ban. And this has been going on back and forth in the United States for many years. Do they still use erythrocine here in Canada?
It's probably just called red dye number 3 here.
It's red number, yeah, red number 3.
Are imported from the U.S.
Okay. That'll have it. Okay. In the U.S., it's interesting that they can use it on cheese, but they cannot use it on cheese, but they still can use it in food and beverages. It's also a good pesticide. And the reason it's a pesticide is because when the insects eat it and then they're exposed to light, it makes them explode. So they spray it on manure piles. But I don't know how successful this is. Maybe those are stupider insects. We found that if you have a cake, and I did this, I didn't expect to be doing an experiment. It was an accident. My mother-in-law was having a birthday, and one of the grandchildren were having a birthday. And of course, they had a very beautiful, highly colored cake for the grandchild, and a cake with different color sprinkles for my mother-in-law. And I wanted my children to have a cake that they could eat. So I made an all-natural cake, and we had 3 cakes on the table. This was outdoors at a picnic site. Bees discovered our picnic table. Every bee, and we're talking a lot of bees, was on tumors in test animals, and they're still arguing about whether or not they really should have accepted it. And I thought, I like this picture. It's real truth in advertising here. Blue number 1 and blue number 2, brilliant blue and indigo carmine, were approved, even though there was controversy from the beginning. They used to put blue number 1 in tube feedings for very sick people. And they discovered that people that were getting fed by these, what they call enteric feedings, were dying. But they didn't die from their illness. They died from the coloring. And when they did an autopsy, this is a picture of what their colons looked like. The dye is not supposed to seep through the walls of the colon. It's not supposed to be able to, but when the person is sick, apparently the membranes change, and it does. The FDA has, back in 2003, has issued a warning to all doctors, please, and hospitals, do not use blue number 1 anymore in enteric feedings. They said that they didn't agree that maybe this was not really the cause, like I don't know what else they would think would turn the colon this color, but they did admit that blue number 1 is known to be toxic to mitochondria. Mitochondria are in every cell in your body. That's the little tiny energy factories. So eating something or putting it in your body when it's toxic to the mitochondria is probably not something you should want.